ready to go.
You and me, a dream team.
Very good choice, my friend. Let's go for the title defense.
Slotenmakerbocht, Mastersbocht, Tarzanbocht. Here we are, hartelijk welcome in Netherlands. A warm welcome to the sunny Netherlands and the DTM in Zandvoort. Only 2 races left and only 2 drivers are still in the hunt for the title for 2013. But definitely Mike Rockenfeller is in the better position because he can crown himself and win his first DTM title already this weekend. But first of all, we do have our qualifying today, and now it's time for our great commentators. It's up to you guys. Have fun.
Thank you very much, Yves. Let's take a look at the track, the Zandvoort track, with Allard Kalf.
Well, it's a fairly long straight, and then you come from 6th gear. You come to a hairpin, which is 2nd gear. It is a prime spot for overtaking, and as we saw in the Formula 3 race this morning, you don't have to be on the inside to overtake. You can be on the outside and take the long way round. After that, it's a short sprint. You go up to 4th gear for a right-hander. It's 1 gear down for that right-hander and to another left-hand hairpin where there's no possibilities to overtake. You can hit each other. It's a tricky point. Well, he leaves the door open a little bit more than you would think of. Then you go through the before mentioned Slotenmakerbocht to Schijfvlak corner, which is downhill. And the minimum speed in this corner is roughly 195 to 200 kilometers an hour. A short straight again to the Masters corner. You go back 1 gear, minimum speed about 170. And then you get a couple of slow corners where you can actually overtake if you get a good run on the guy ahead of you. A right, then a left, and then it's a sprint up to the chicane. And here you can definitely overtake, either on the outside or the inside, whichever way you want it. It is possible. It's the slowest point of the circuit, 2nd gear again. And then it's up to 4th gear, a very fast right-hander into a flat-out right-hander. And we're back on the main straight. And that's 4.3 kilometers of the Zandvoort circuit. 44 laps are going to race, and of course 2 pit stops. But that's all tomorrow.
Well, welcome along everyone to Zandvoort. We've already had a free practice session, the 90-minute session this morning, and the man who is trying to keep the championship alive, Augusto Farfus, was fastest by nearly 0.2 of a second over Eduardo Mutara. But Mike Rockenfeller doesn't need to do a huge amount to win the championship this weekend. His gap 33 points. And he needs a 25-point gap, leaving Holland at the end of Sunday afternoon. But important to get out in qualifying, get a good lap time in, and make sure you get through each of the 4 sessions. We lose 6 cars each session, and this first one will be 16 minutes long. And there he is at the front of the queue, ready to have a nice clean track ahead of him.
Yeah, Mike Rockenfeller, who was actually the first one out this morning in the free practice session, and he used those laps to very well to his advantage, basically. Just going quickly back then to the free practice session this morning. The best Mercedes was in 10th position, Christian Vittoris. All the other Mercedes cars 18th and lower. That doesn't bode well for the guys from Stuttgart. But then it was only free practice, and it was dominated by BMW and Audi at the front. But Mercedes, it does worry me a little bit. They were off the pace, basically.
And Christian Vittoris lying 3rd in the championship. The best of the Mercedes cars, just ahead, just 1 point ahead of Robert Wickens, with Bruno Spengler the champion in 5th position, no chance of defending that title. And the driver's heading out on this circuit, well cleaned now. It collects quite a lot of dust, and as the wind blows in from the sea, Augusto Farfus preparing himself for his first fast lap.
It's quite good with the new format DTM, no running on the Friday. Everything's got to be done on the Saturday. And you got to get it right, and this team gets it right. There we see Ernst Moser on the left, the guy running Phoenix Racing, and of course Mike Rockenfeller's car. He's been on pole here before. His first pole position in DTM came here with Timo Scheider, when Scheider was actually racing for Opel in DTM about 12 years ago, 11.
Jamie Green exiting the pits as Mike Rockenfeller heads through the chicane and onto his first flying lap. One of the big news stories of the weekend is that we will not be running DRS this weekend on the DTM cars, and therefore qualifying even more important to get a good place on the grid, because it is not that easy to overtake around here.
No, I mean, the only way to overtake probably is using the strategy to your advantage. We'll see tomorrow a variety of people coming in early, coming in late, changing from the hard to the soft tyre, but not having DRS to me is a great disappointment, maybe the disappointment of the weekend, because I was really looking forward to all that.
And what is the reason? We're told it's something to do with the fact that it could be potentially dangerous, but these are professional racing drivers.
Yeah, I think I understand that some of the teams were not confident you could actually run the last corner with the DRS open, and then if you try it, it could be dangerous. But then, as you say, they're very good drivers, they're a very good team, they're sensible people. I would have done it, but then, you know, I would have liked to see DRS in operation, because there are more places where you can use it. It's not just the main straight. You could have done it after turn 7, 8, 9. We're going into turn 10, the left-hander. I mean, if someone would be ahead of you, made a slight mistake coming out of this corner, and you'll be following him, you open DRS, and you'll probably be in a position to attack when you get to the chicane at the bottom of our screen.
Looked like a little mistake there for Mike Rockenfeller, not hooking up the Apex's second right-hand turn, but looks much better through the chicane. And it'll be interesting to see how we get on with the split. Rockenfeller, yeah, dropping a tenth to Farfus, 4 tenths to Farfus in the first sector, and 2 tenths in the second sector. As we now come round the final couple of turns to complete the lap, Mike Rockenfeller will cut the beam. He needs to make sure he's in the top places to avoid the drop. And 6 will go down. A 1:32.278, his first fast lap. Here comes Augusto Farfus to complete his lap in the BMW. I'm sure it's going to be quicker. He was fastest of all through Sector 1 and Sector 2. Farfus a 31.467, nearly a second faster.
Well, 8 tenths difference between Farfus and Rockenfeller. So Mike Rockenfeller needs to find time, otherwise he might get stuck in Q1 and qualify 16th or lower.
Well, we did see a little mistake through the back section, just not quite hooking up the curb. Here comes Mortara to complete his lap. And he was fast through the middle sector, fastest of anyone, faster than Farfus, but he only sits in 3rd position. Now, Augusto Farfus should be pretty happy with a 31.4, I would have thought. He probably doesn't have to do too much more running in this session.
No, if you think about it, he only needs to be in the top 16. So I think a 31.46 guarantees you a place in the top 16. So he'll be pretty happy with that. I mean, I'm looking forward to Timo Scheider's lap, because Timo is usually pretty good here in qualifying. He's been disappointing in the last couple of races, but here I think he could be the surprise. Martin Tomczyk, 40.6 is just not, it's very average on that first intermediate, to be honest.
Of all the cars, the BMW is looking the most stiff and the most low. A lot of scraping along the in the braking zones, especially into Tarzan, where there's a few bumps. A lot of sparks come off the front splitter of that car. Fantastic to see, but not so comfortable for the drivers. On board with Spengler through this first very twisty section. The original circuit here from Zandvoort in the Grand Prix days. Very, very narrow as well, and important to get the right line. It's almost all original through the first, up until the first intermediate point. Through this fantastic plunging right-hander, you can see not a huge amount of speed rubbed off. And now cutting the beam at intermediate point 1, just there. And now we turn off to the new section. It's a lot of time lost from Bjorn Spengler over Farfus's ultimate time already in Sector 1.
Andy Prio is second for the moment in his BMW. Well, what went wrong with Timo Glock? Whoops, just off coming onto the main straight. Kept it together, but his time pretty much down the gravel, I would say.
Yeah, we saw a couple of people going off in the Formula 3 race there and trying to carry the speed onto the start and finish straight through the penultimate turn. And just a little bit wide, there doesn't seem to be that much to rescue you. Here comes Marco Wittmann. Across the start finishing line for BMW, it's going to be a good lap. Second position, still 4 tenths off Farfus's ultimate pace, but that should allow him not to have to do any more running with 10 minutes remaining in this first session.
Lost a couple of tenths in the first sector and a tenth in the second sector. The team run by Dutchman Ernst Knoors, who is actually running a team in Holland for the first time in his career.
So Farfus, Wittmann, Prio, it's looking good for BMW at the moment. We haven't seen any of the Mercedes cars setting a competitive time yet, although I can tell you that Paffett is out on circuit, as well as Robert Wickens. And here is Pascal Wehrlein.
He's been good actually. He's been good in qualifying. He's maybe a little disappointing in races, but for an 18-year-old, he's been very fast and he's also been very mature. Here's Timo Scheider, 2 tenths down on Augusto Farfus. And then see how fast he is through that last sector of the Zandvoort track. From here, it's flat out past the tyre barrier where almost 10 years ago Peter Dambrecht crashed his Opel Vectra in dramatic fashion. But it's a good lap from Timo Scheider. Gets him third.
Yeah, you can watch the top 10 best crashes on the DTM YouTube site, and it's one of the most popular videos on there, unsurprisingly, including that Peter Dambrecht accident, which was absolutely massive through the final turn. And that's one of the big features of this Zandvoort circuit. If you make a mistake, you are punished massively. Timo Glock made a mistake on his last lap, kept it out of the barriers, but did do a bit of grass cutting. He comes to the danger area now. Much better lap this time through. He's managed to recover well. He's the last of those who set a time at the moment in 16th position. Now through the final turn, not much curb there to play with, a few bumps to unsettle the car, and over the line he goes. That's much better, into 5th spot, half a second off Farfus. Gary Paffett, the first of Mercedes to set a time. He goes 10th, but fastest of all through the final sector. That bodes pretty well. A 32.0. Is that enough, though, to allow him into the top 16?
Yeah, top 16 maybe, but top 10 could be touch and go for Gary Paffett and those of the other Mercedes drivers, because Paffett's 10th. Mary, Wehrlein, Wickens, they're all not fast enough at the moment. Juncadella, Vitores still have to set a time.
Vitores coming to the line. This looks like a better lap time for the Mercedes driver. And he goes 9th, but just 6 tenths shy. So the 32.0 seems to be the plateau for the Mercedes for the moment. No one any faster.
If you look at the computer, it's a 32.01 for Joey Hand in 7th, and it's a 32.09 for Philippe Albuquerque in 12th. So
yeah, that's close. So the bubble is going to be very touch and go in this first session. And one of the positive stories has got to be Andy Prio up in 4th position. He looks very safe. He's in the pits, as is Augusto Farfus. Here comes Timo Glock on his 3rd lap on these tyres. Faster than he's been before in Sector 1, but no improvement through the 2nd sector. And he goes 4th position, so an improvement overall then throughout the whole lap. Robert Wickens now, a new livery for this weekend on the steel-sponsored Mercedes. And at the moment, not in the top 16, but he goes to 15th. That's not going to be enough. It's going to need to go again, I think. Robert lying 4th in the championship, just a point behind his teammate Christian Vitores in 3rd. And you can hear the cars bottoming out as the underfloors scrape against the bumps around here. Danny Juncadella, a winner of the Masters in 2012 in Formula 3 at this circuit. 22nd at the moment, goes to 19th. It's not good enough. 5.5 minutes remaining in the session. Ekstrom is in the drop zone. Wehrlein, Molina, Junkadella,
Spengler.
And Werner and Spengler, yeah.
Well, Spengler must be the surprise in the drop zone, being 17th with the BMW and being in the pits as well. Pascal Wehrlein. The Mercedes cars seem to lose in that first sector quite a lot compared to the, especially the BMWs that are very fast in the first sector.
And that's the most technical of the 3 sectors, I would have said.
Yep.
Joey Hand just dipping a wheel over the curb onto the concrete.
It's a good lap from Joey Hand. That could be an improvement up to 2nd position.
Very, very neat driving from Joey through the final sector there. Pinpoint perfection in terms of line, but where's it going to go in terms of time? 8th at the moment, moves up to 2nd, and look at the time, less than a 10th slower than Farfus. That was a lovely time from Joey Hand. Matthias Ekstrom, last at the moment in his Audi. Surely an improvement this time. 15th, it's just a bit, it is in at the moment, but it's not necessarily that safe. We've got drivers coming back out on circuit then. Mike Rockenfeller being one. He's down in 9th position at the moment. A 2nd set of tyres for Rockenfeller. Paffett heading out on circuit. Robert Wickens just behind him. I think Paffett should be safe with a 31.9. He did improve his 32. 31.9 should be good enough. But Wickens, just 2/10 off him, down in 16th position.
With a lap that's over 90 seconds to have the top 19 within the second, I mean, that's pretty competitive. So any improvement you can find, even if it is a 10th of a second, would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Lovely onboard shots. Take a quick look at Bruno Spengler. Those titanium plates on the front splitter of the car rubbing against the ground and causing those sparks. Fantastic when they did a rollout last night and the cars heading out in the twilight. It was really beautiful to see. Just a 15-minute session to shake down the cars. In theory, not supposed to be going fast. But in fact, Augusto Farfus picked up a fine from that session because he was released out into the path of another car. Car 20 under investigation. That is Molina.
Who's 21st at the moment, so he won't be the happiest man in the paddock.
No news as to why he's under investigation. But I did see one car diving quite late into the pits at the top of the shop. That could well have been Molina. We go on board with Mike Rockenfeller. One hand on the title for Rocky, as we now see Jamie Green through the 2nd sector of the lap. He's had a good first sector. The ultimate best time is a 40.1 from Farfus, so he's 2/10 off. But if he can keep this momentum up, it should place him safely into the top 10 positions. 11th at the moment. It's dropped quite a bit of time, in fact. Another 4/10 dropped in the middle sector, and now to the final few turns. Just seemed a little bit offline there in turn-in. Kicked up a bit of dust as he turned into the final turn. Comes to the line then with 2 minutes to go in the session. Jamie does not improve. Stays 11th. And with so many cars on that 32.0, 32.1, 32.2, he could well be dangerous. Philippe Albuquerque through the chicane, taking a lot of curb. And just behind him, Mike Rockenfeller.
I'm surprised actually Augusto Farfus went out again, because he should be safe on that 31.4. I can't see 17 drivers battering that in the last couple of minutes, but he did go out and give it another go.
Maybe a chance to get the car set up in a slightly different way, try something.
Albuquerque with a very, very good last sector, moves up to 6th position.
Here comes Dirk Werner, last at the moment in the BMW, not where BMW want to see him, and he goes up to 7th, so he's in, knocking Ekstrom out. Ekstrom is just come out the pits. Hopefully he'll get across the line before the flag comes out with just a minute remaining. On board with Spengler then. Spengler also the only BMW in the drop zone now, but this does look like it will be good enough to bring him into the next session of qualifying, into 12th position. under half a second slower than the fastest time in Augusto Farfus's hands. So that means Adrian Tombe then drops to 17th. Ekstrom, Wickens, Merry and Wehrlein.
Well, it's all changed now. Junkadeya's out, Tombe, Ekstrom. There's improvements around P16 all over the place.
And that's why it's just so close. Pascal Wehrlein then through the final turn towards the start and finishing line. He does not want to start this race in last position. He gets up to 10th spot. Augusto Farfus has got more pace in him. He's shown that. He comes into the pits. Doesn't need to complete the lap. He was just trying something.
Well, it worked.
He doesn't want to show his full pace either, I guess. So Molina, Juncadella, Tombe, Ekstrom. Ekstrom in 20th position. Here he is on our screens. Has he got any more pace in the car? It's a good first sector from Ekstrom. He doesn't want to lose too much more time though. The drop zone is just 6 tenths away from the fastest lap, and he's already lost 4 of those tenths. 2 more corners to go. He will knock his teammate out if he gets in. Jamie Green is sitting on the bubble, but Green is just behind, but not on a good lap. Here comes Manius Ekstrom to the line then. In 20th position, he does improve into 15th, gets himself in. Vitoris and Green go out, so who else improved then? In the last moment, I think Molina just got himself in, and no one else is on a lap. So it's Vitoris out, Green out, Tomczyk out, and Juncadella, Wickens and Merry. Look at that, 4 Mercedes being dropped out, leaving just Paffett and Wehrlein to fight. Not good at all for Christian Vitoris.
Juncadella is a surprise, and Vitoris, that they are both out. I see Vitoris and Juncadella and Wickens and Merry. You got 4 Mercedes drivers out in the first qualifying session.
Yeah, really struggling in the Mercedes. There's Jamie Green's mistake through the final sector of the lap. To be fair though, he hadn't really got enough time in the car from the first 2 sectors to improve. And so Ekstrom just getting in, knocking Green out, and Molina just getting in and knocking Vitoris out on the last dying moments of that session. Robert Wickens also running a little bit wide through the penultimate turn. And as soon as you get the wheel over the curb, you're almost surfing on top of the curb, and you can't bring it back.
9 tenths is the difference between number 1 and the last qualifier, Roberto Merry, in 22nd position. I mean, that is just amazing. That's basically a 1% difference between number 1 and the last one. So, as you said, 31.46 and a 31.0. It's exactly half a second that gets you out of the top 16. Unbelievable.
Farfus a 31.4, Rockenfeller a 31.5. Just 12 hundredths between the two. As Wickens comes in and gets parked in the pits. What a disappointment. After a string of really strong results for Wickens in the last couple of rounds, he'll be very sad to be on the back row of the grid.
Well, there's Gary Paffett in 6th position, the only Mercedes to sneak into the top 10. Mercedes struggling, that's for sure. Paffett was very slow this morning, but made it up to 6th in the first qualifying session. And there we see 4 of the 6 Mercedes out. Only Wehrlein, the youngster, and Paffett, the old man, made it through.
Pascal Wehrlein then continuing to impress. Shadows of brilliance every so often, mixed with the mistakes here and there, but he's got the hopes of Mercedes on his shoulders now. Him and Robert Wickens. Him and Paffett. Paffett knows how to manage the pressure of the Mercedes group, but Wehrlein still young, fresh out of Formula 3. In fact, wasn't really confirmed as a Mercedes DTM driver until a couple of weeks before the race. In fact, he started his season in Formula 3, and then Ralf Schumacher decided he would no longer drive in DTM, and Wehrlein got his seat. Vitoris, Green, Tomczyk. Green and Tomczyk then, Audi and BMW, the only cars of those two to go out, and 4 Mercedes. Jamie Green frustrated because he was on a pretty good lap. And there is a quick look at Roberto Merry, the Thomas Sabo car. Mercedes have got some head scratching to do this afternoon.
Augusto Farfus, of course, the winner of the first race in Hockenheim, and then retiring from the second race at Brands Hatch, where he scored no points. Well, what if? Well, what if doesn't give you a championship, but it's only 33 points with 2 rounds to go. That gap could have been a lot closer.
Absolutely. Consistency is so key, especially when the machinery these days is so good. You don't get retirements very often. Just got to keep picking up the points and qualify well. And one of the things that Farfus has been very good at is making sure he's been in the Final Four. He's the person, or the driver that's been in the Final Four the most out of the whole of the field. And let's go down to Eve in the pit lane and find out exactly what's going on with that Mercedes car. She has Robert Wickens, who starts on the final row of the grid.
Robert, what happened today in the qualifying? 4 Mercedes already out in Q1. Actually, your Oschersleben race wasn't also so happy. It was a disappointing ending with a collision. So what's possible for tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, fortunately, maybe I was on a lap that would go through to Q2, and I made a mistake in the final corner and went 2 wheels into the gravel, and then, that was it, really. I mean, I struggled in free practice this morning, and, it seemed like it wasn't much better in qualifying. But, you know, I think Mercedes always has a good race car, and anything can happen tomorrow.
But is this a general problem for Mercedes to qualify good?
I don't know. I mean, for sure, we probably have the least pole positions of the other manufacturers, but, you know, it's, we'll have to look into it, I guess, and see what happens.
Good luck for you. Back to you guys from a really disappointing Robert Wickens.
Yeah, you can hear it in his voice. Robert really downcast and almost slightly confused as well as to really why the car is as slow as it is.
Yeah, and why in the race they usually pick up speed, because they do race a lot better with the Mercedes than they qualify.
Third in the championship, Christian Vitoris has been working hard, but he is also out.
Christian, you're also out already in Q1, finished on P17. So actually you have good memories from here, because I think in 2009 you were on podium with the Formula 3 Euro Series. So what's possible from this back of the grid?
It will be difficult, especially as we are not allowed to use the DRS. The weekend it will be hard for overtaking. It's hard to understand, because this morning I really felt comfortable in the car and was pretty fast, but for some reason I'm losing a lot of time in the first sector I did in qualifying, and it's really strange.
What's the exact reason not using the DRS here in Zandvoort?
Well, I think it's too dangerous, or some of people think it's too dangerous, and that's the reason why we're not using it.
Interesting. Back to you guys.
It is interesting.
Well, we've already discussed it. Is it too dangerous? Drivers are given the facilities that they use, and they use them in a sensible way, surely. But either way, it will make racing a lot tougher, and it will make strategy come into play a huge amount more. Remember, we do have those prime and option tyres that will be used in the race, and they do have very different characteristics. And before we get into the laps, let's have a quick word with Jamie Green down the pits.
Jamie, you had your best Audi weekend in Oschersleben. You were in pole position and finished third on podium. So actually, what happened today?
Well, yeah, different track, different day, different story. We know that our setup is more suited to the race, and we have to kind of survive qualifying. Today we didn't survive it very well. Some of the setup changes we made from this morning didn't suit me, and therefore I'm out.
Unfortunately, because you're the only Audi out in Q1.
Yeah, I mean, compared to Matthias, we have quite similar car setups, and he wasn't 1/10 quicker than me. He made it through. So yeah, it makes sense, but it's still not very enjoyable.
Okay, so good luck for the race. Back to you guys.
It's pit lane causing a bit of issue, isn't it? Molina under investigation for being released in front of Timo Glock. That will be the reason as to why he's under investigation. And we've seen Farfus already this weekend being given a penalty in terms of a fine, €2,000 fine. So it might not affect his racing, but it could well affect his bank balance. Augusto Farfus starts his hot lap with Mike Rockenfeller just ahead of him. Molina is also in front of him. And once again, like we saw in Q1, it'll be exactly the same. Rockenfeller putting down a benchmark, and then potentially Farfus beating it.
I think fines like that should go to the team, to be honest, because Molina was only driving away because he was doing as he was told. This is so good. It's absolutely flat out till the top of the hill, and then just under 200 kilometers an hour, let's say 130 mile an hour, minimum speed through that right-hander. Just absolutely brilliant.
And a brilliant first sector, 40.09. It's as fast as we've ever seen a DTM around here through the first sector of the lap. It's just under 2/10 faster than Mike Rockenfeller is ahead of him. Rockenfeller's set down a benchmark of a 23.7 through the sector 2. Farfus does a 23.5. Augusto Farfus will not let this lie. And the BMW is looking incredibly strong. Rockenfeller heading towards the final few turns and over the line to complete his lap with a 31.6. But what does Augusto Farfus do? He's surely going to be faster than a 31.6. Molina 31.9. Farfus a 30.9. Wow.
Stunning lap. If you think that the Formula 3 this morning were doing 33s at the end of the race, they qualified around 31.5.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, these cars are faster than the Formula 3 cars. They weigh a bit more, they've got more power, but I'm sure they're much more of a handful.
Adrian Tombe, who looked in the danger zone throughout Q1, has put in a stellar lap time, 31.0, and that, in theory, should be safe. The top 10 cutoff point in Q1 was a 31.7, so anyone who's done less than a 31.7 could be in danger. At the moment, all the cars out on circuit doing 31.6s, other than Molina. Pascal Wehrlein also at the moment in the drop zone, out of the drop zone, I should say, in 12th position. The final car to set a lap. Here comes Bruno Spengler on his first flyer. And Spengler, the 2012 champion, in 9th position. 31.5. So already the pace faster than we saw in Q1.
Here's Marco Wittmann, who's done a 39.9, the first driver to go below 40 seconds on the first sector, but then he drops off a couple of tenths in sector 2. But that was a blinding first sector for Marco Wittmann. Of course, test driver last year for BMW, promoted to a race seat alongside Timo Glock in the new team. New DTM drivers, new team, double podium in Austria at the Red Bull Ring, where they finished 2nd and 3rd. And here he sets a time which should get him through 31.229. I would say that gets him through the top 10.
4th position, just about 3/10 off Augusto Farfus. Mike Rockenfeller is in 14th at the moment. 31.6 would have got you through in Q1.
Yeah, you're going to make the next step though.
Second set of tyres for Rocky then. The cut-off point in 10th position of 31.5 at the moment, with Andy Prio sitting there ahead of Spengler, Albuquerque, Ekstrom, Rocky, Wehrlein and Molina. Molina with a penalty overhanging him as well.
That'll be a fine though, there won't be anything else, I would say. Andy Prio, the man who probably drove more laps around this track than any of the other drivers, was in his days of the RBM World Touring Car Championship. That team used to use this track as their test track, and didn't matter what day of the week you come to the track, Andy would be testing here with the BMW. He knows this place.
It might be a BMW and it might have rear-wheel drive, but the World Touring Car, very different beast to a DTM car, which effectively is like a single-seater but with a roof on. Such a different driving style, and one that Prio is potentially struggling with a little bit, but he's at least qualified through into Q2, which is fantastic, and at the moment, sitting there, being able to get into Q3. Mike Rockenfeller might have something to say about that. Wehrlein hasn't set a particularly competitive time either, and neither has Molina, so some work to do. Dirk Werner is in, but feels unsafe with his previous lap time of a 31.4, so going again.
Well, Gary Pafford again in 6th, a 31.4. He's upped his game a little bit in this second qualifying session, which is what you should do. And it's going to be interesting who's not going to go through to the top 10 qualifying, and is Mike Rockenfeller going to go through? At the moment, he's out.
He starts his lap though through the first sector, this sinuous, twisty little section through the hairpin, and now circuit opens out just a little bit. Get the power down, see how brave you can be through these really fast corners, through the
over the bumps as well.
Yeah, the bumps are so much more amplified with these stiff cars. You can see them bouncing around. Look how vicious it is through here, trying to carry maximum speed through that turn, but the bumps trying to push you off and push you wide. Rocky 3/10 off already in the first sector.
He's not going to make it into the top 10 if he keeps going like this.
Yeah, he's only got 2 more tenths to lose. And I suppose he will have a second lap, possibly. He won't get the best of his tyres, but he does have a chance to do 2 flies before the end of the session. Down to the chicane. A better middle sector, better than he's been through before. But it's the 2 tenths that he doesn't want to lose, he's lost. Now through the final 2 corners, you can see how that first one throws you in, allows you to carry more speed. And now the final turn. Where will this take him from 14th position? The championship leader will improve, and he goes 5th. Wow, that last sector was mega.
And he had the slipstream. I mean, his top speed is a new best top speed at start-finish. Gary Paffett sort of helped him a bit there, coming onto the straight using the slipstream, because it's 2 kilometers an hour faster than anybody else has done so far. Also, those 2 corners, the last 2, they are so important. You got to hit the apex. You got to turn in after the bump or before the bump. You know, it's a whole they look simple, but they're not. They look so easy, those 2 right-handers, but there are bumps everywhere. If you look here at Matthias Ekström, you see the car just going over the bump there, and you basically need to wait for it to settle before you can actually turn in.
Ekström lying down in 14th position. He needs to improve now, but it's been a good lap from the Audi driver, and he gets into 7th spot, potentially with 1.5 minutes remaining. That maybe is not safe. 31.3. It's 2 tenths faster than Glock, who is in 10th position on the bubble. Mortara is not in. Molina is the slowest man at the moment with a 31.9. There's definitely more time in that Audi.
Oh, Wittmann, didn't he do that first sector fast before? 39.9 again for Marco Wittmann on sector 1. He doesn't lose that much this time in sector 2, so he gains a little bit. That could be another very good lap for Marco Wittmann.
Miguel Molina, though, cuts the beam over the start-finishing line to try and get himself into the top 10. He goes 7th, but that bumps Ekström down to 8th, Paffett 9th, and Werner now in 10th position.
Wittmann goes fastest, 30.9.
Wow. Pascal Wehrlein, though, just cut the beam and did not... Sorry, Mark Werner cut the beam and did not improve. Wehrlein also not in, and Paffett now so close to the bubble. Who can improve behind him? Mortara going again and going better. Dirk Werner does not improve. In fact, goes down. He gets bumped down. Paffett is now in the bubble. He needs to go again, and his first sector is not good, so it looks like Gary Paffett may well be out.
Ekström is the first one to get the flag.
It's Mortara that's the man to watch. Over the line he goes, and he does go fastest of all with a 30.9. Where did that come from the Audi? It's put Ekström out, though, and Ekström is already in the pit, so Ekström is going no further.
Ekström out, Paffett out, Wehrlein out, Dirk Werner out for the moment, but who's still on the lap? Only Pascal Wehrlein, but that's a very slow first sector, so I can't see him improve. So we've got Prio and Spengler out for BMW, Ekström out for Audi, and Paffett. Oh, and also Dirk Werner out for 3 BMWs out.
Yeah, 3 BMWs and 2 Mercedes. We'll have no Mercedes in the top 10.
And bad news for Augusto Farfus if he needs any help.
Yeah, exactly. In the top 10, we'll then have 4 BMWs and 6 Audis. Paffett brings his Mercedes in. He is the fastest of the Mercedes. And what was the gap then between the top? 30.9 and 31.3. 4 tenths separate the top 10 positions. An extra missing out by not 200ths, but 2,000ths of a second.
Just incredible.
Amazing that Molina's getting through. And Molina was on the bubble last time, on the bubble again. But he is through and in the top 10.
The first time in a long time, it's Timo Glock who's in the top 10. He's been a little bit off the pace in qualifying the last couple of races, but he's definitely back. He knows this place back from his Formula 3 days. So Glock and also Marco Wiedmann in the top 10. So the new MTech team having both cars through the top 10.
Just a quick look again. The penultimate turn causing problems, and a wild, wild ride for Dirk Werner as he was trying to improve. And he's ripped off a bit of the underbody of that car. Oh no, it's the whole of the rear arch, the left rear arch.
Here you can see the bumps going up to Scheifler corner. These cars just going up, and it's just, I mean, to drive there and keep your foot firmly planted on the floor must be an adventure in itself.
And try and keep your focus as well as your head bobs around in the seat. Vicious forces on the whole body around this circuit. But a circuit that all the drivers absolutely love, and it may be something to do with the beach. Mortara, fastest man for Audi. That's pretty impressive as we've seen the BMWs going so well. Whitman, Farfus, Tombe, Scheider, Joey Hand in the top 6. Then Albuquerque, Mike Rockenfeller in there and safe. But not spectacular yet from Mike Rockenfeller. Seems slightly on the back foot into comparison to Augusto Farfus. But Ekstrom out, Paffett out, Werner out, Prio, Spengler, some very big names dropping out in that session.
It's quite funny, we started only half an hour ago, I think, or just over half an hour ago, and the track temperature has risen from 17 to almost 19 degrees. So that's 2 degrees more, and if I look outside I can see only blue sky. So maybe that's going to play a factor.
Let's go down to Matthias Ekstrom, who is in the pits.
Matthias, you finished 11 in the qualifying. Actually, you have good memories here from Zandvoort. You won 3 times and finished 9 times on the podium. So for sure, you're not that happy, a little bit disappointed actually with this qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, the one who knows me and the philosophy we run is to be good in the race. Still try to qualify as good as possible. Today 11th was the outcome, and I mean, sure, I wanted to come to Q3 and have a run for top 6, which was target, but in the end can only say the philosophy we run, we will stick with it, because still tomorrow is the race and that's where you get the points. But from P11 for sure it's going to be a way harder work than being up front.
And also without DRS here.
I don't mind overtaking even without, so I can manage this. If I'm quick enough, I will pass the guys in front.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks. Back to you guys.
I like that. That's a good attitude, isn't it? Fantastic.
Well, at the end of the day, it's the same for everybody. I mean, it's not just you not using DRS. It's the same for everybody. The DRS does make it a little bit easier. On the other end, it's also, you know, you might get a better race because no one can actually get away, and you know, it's well, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, I suppose.
It's so ultra competitive, though. It's so close between everyone that it's going to be very difficult to make up ground. Gary Paffett, the best Mercedes in P12, is down the pits.
Gary, for sure DTM is really close, but to mention there's no Mercedes in the top 10. You are the best Mercedes positioned 12. So what's the problem for Mercedes during the qualifying this season?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, this morning we really struggled with the car, but we made some changes. And to be honest, in Q1 I was really happy because I think we were P5 and just 2 tenths off the quickest. But even if you look at the sectors, then I think we were a few more tenths away. And in Q2, the first set was okay, but the second set I just really struggled for grip on the second set of tyres, and I couldn't get a good lap time in at all on the second set. And we ended up, 4 tenths slower than the quickest, which is too much, really. You know, it means the difference between being in the top 10 and being P12. So the car felt pretty good again. You know, we didn't have any big issues with the car, and certainly it was a big step forward from this morning. But the problem is, you know, we changed the car quite a lot for qualifying, and it's hard to get used to a car that quickly. You know, when you're talking about a few hundredths or a few tenths of a second, you have to have driven the car, and when you have a new setup for qualifying, it's quite late, and that's the way it is this year with the really limited testing. if you don't arrive with a good setup straight away, you're on the back foot for the whole weekend. So it makes it difficult.
Really difficult. The qualifyings during this season for Mercedes. Thanks, Gary. Back to you guys.
A 10th would have put him 8th. He's out.
No wonder they're not quite sure why everything's going on when actually, you know, you've got a pretty good car. You're just lacking that tiny little bit extra, and it's easy to find a second. It's hard to find a 10th when you're on the limit.
Yeah, it's also when you go through these cycles, it's almost you just want to put new tires on and keep sticking new tires on, and you'll find a time within yourself. But if the balance is not quite there, then you want to change it a little bit, and you want to change it. You have to get used to it. It doesn't really work like that.
Bruno Spengler, who was 2012 champion, has improved his qualifying position from last round, but is 16th good enough?
Bruno, I think with P16, and actually you're getting 2 places plus, so you have to start from P18 tomorrow during the race because of the collision with Robert Wickens in Oschersleben. So actually you're not happy for sure with this qualifying.
Yeah, well, I mean, 16 or 18 doesn't make a big difference, does it?
It's the back of the grid.
It's the back of the grid anyway, but you know, it's we have to see why, because I couldn't go quicker today. I was pushing as hard as I could. The car did not give me the feeling that I could go any quicker. There was no room anywhere. I was just as wide as I could everywhere, just pushing the maximum and just missing. I think we missed a little bit the window today in qualifying, which didn't happen to us very often. Didn't happen to me very often to barely qualify into Q2, which was the case today. You know, it was a hard fight to qualify into Q2, so there's definitely something going on, or a bit of a problem, and we need to see, we need to analyze, we need to see what we can do for the race tomorrow. Hopefully the qualifying performance wasn't good, but hopefully the race performance will be better. We see over the distance how we are, and then we have to go from there. You know, for sure it's not, I'm not very happy about it. It's not good for BMW also, because I could have been more in front with a more performing package and be more in front and help BMW to defend the championship title, which I can still try to do from P18. Will be tough, you know, but I'm a fighter and I will try and catch up front tomorrow during the race.
One more, a short question, actually, race and about the distance. What do you think about the performance for the option tire?
Well, I have no idea, actually, because it's very difficult to know or to say what's going to happen on the option tire over the distance. In Oschersleben, we thought it was going to be okay over the distance, but really you had a big struggle. Oschersleben, I mean, was the opposite of here. We were so quick in qualifying and struggling a lot in the race. Hopefully here is the opposite, you know, struggle in qualifying and good in the race, and that's what we hope for.
Interesting tactics and strategy. Back to you guys, thanks.
This circuit, Allard, is very, very aggressive on tyres, correct? So it's going to be tricky.
I was just going to say that the option tyre is going to be a handful getting it to last, you know, even for a long time in the race. So I'll be surprised if people actually start on the option tyre tomorrow. I would start on the harder tyre and then see if anyone starts on the option and see how long they actually last on that one and go accordingly. But you know, this circuit is so aggressive on tyres. It's so easy to lose grip. It's unbelievable. So it's going to be an interesting race.
Those guys, though, who are the experienced runners there, who've just dropped out, we have Prio with Spengler, with Ekstrom and Paffett. Are they going to be looking to try and do something completely different with the strategy and get some clear air early on? Yeah,
that's what I would do. I mean, that's always what if I'm at the back, I'm a great believer in doing something different.
Yeah.
Because if you do what everybody else does, then you're screwed. So you got to do something different. So when you're at the back, I would start on the prime and maybe change to the prime, and then go to the option later in the race. But I mean, you know, that is an option. You can also start on the prime, on the option, see how long it will last, and then do 2 short stints on the harder tire. You know, but I would start on the high and go completely the opposite way.
Bit of confusion in the pit lane there, as Augusto Farfus has not gone out to set a fast lap. He's just gone out at the start of the session, come back into the pits, and then the team weren't sure whether to put him in the box or put him in his pit box, which doesn't really make sense, but park him outside his pit box or put him inside, and eventually he's been wheeled back in. Marco Wittmann on a super fast lap. We're looking at Mike Rockenfeller, who's done a very competitive middle sector actually. 23.9 is pretty good, and he will complete the lap. Again, the first man out on circuit. with Whitman and Molina just behind, and Mike Rockenfeller does a 32.9. That is nowhere near good enough. He lost a lot of time in the final sector.
Yeah, and he did a 40.8 in the first sector, where we've seen Marco Wittmann doing 39.9 there. So that's another 6-7 tenths he's lost. Maybe they just wanted to check something on the car before he went out to set a time. On the other end, there's a lot of panic in the garage. So maybe it wasn't a planned pit stop. Can Timo Glock get into the fast four? That would be absolutely brilliant.
Well, we're seeing times a lot slower than previously. 32s, 34 from Molina, 35 from Whitman. Albuquerque and Farfus yet to set a lap time, and we haven't seen the full complement of 10 drivers on track at all. So these must be used tyres then. These aren't a fresh set of rubber, and we'll see the fresh set of rubber coming out for the last two portions of qualifying.
40.3 in the first sector for Marco Wittmann. So again, he is by far the fastest driver in that first sector of this track. That goes up to the fast right. Whoa, just gone off a little bit. You lose some time. You probably didn't lift off for a millisecond, but he has lost some time. Maybe the car's not very stable on the brake and just going to get the sand off the tyres. So he's lost a little bit. He had 24.2. That is about 2 tenths if you compare it to the likes of Adrian Tambay.
Joey Hand fastest at the moment with a 32.383. Marco Wittmann, though, still on course for beating that. You can see the dirt on that front left tyre is still hanging there as he leans on it through the final turn and cuts the beam to go third fastest. Very, very tight between the top four. And remember, that's where you need to be. With 6 minutes remaining of the session, you've got to be in the top four positions. Farfus hasn't set a time. He's going to wait until the dying moment on a new set to get himself in.
Can Timo Glock join his teammates? Or he's in second at the moment. Can he improve on whatever he did? Yes, he can.
Yeah, not bad. Less than a tenth off the ultimate fastest of Joey Hand.
BMW, so 3 BMWs in the top 3 at the moment.
We haven't seen the full complement of Audi out there yet. Tambay, Rockenfeller and Molina, the 3 drivers that we've seen on track. On board with Rockenfeller. Flat out.
Doesn't even shift down. Just keeps it in top gear. Little brake and back on the throttle.
That curb is starting to work itself a little loose on the inside there.
They attack it absolutely 100%, and Farfus ready to go out again.
Considering how stiff these cars are and how many bumps there is around the circuit, it's amazing that they want to ride even more curves and make it even more bumpy for themselves. But it is the fastest way, the straightest route through that chicane.
It's also the angle you hit the curb. Sometimes the curb is really high, like in Monza, the curves are high, but you can actually ride them if you attack them at the right angle. And these are sort of similar. If you attack them at the right angle, you can really go over them a lot more than you think. But if you hit them at the wrong angle, it'll throw you straight off the track.
So Augusto Farfus out on track, as is Timo Scheider, I can tell you. He's just exited the pits.
It's my dark horse for the top 4, Timo Scheider. And if he does, I wouldn't be surprised to see him on pole position.
Mortara also now out. Albuquerque out on track, and we're watching Augusto Farfus, who's the other man not to have set a time. We have 6 times on the board, with Joey Hand fastest, 3 BMWs, and Tambay in 4th spot. But expect these times to tumble now. On board with Mike Rockenfeller, winding the car up. 40.1 through sector 1 is far better than Joey Hand managed.
Well, that's getting close to the 39.9 that Marco Wittmann did in the previous session. And he was losing in that first session, but actually gaining in the second and the third session on a sector on Marco Wittmann. So he could be on course for a 30.9, 30.8.
This is going to be a very nice lap from Mike Rockenfeller. 8 tenths faster than Joey Hand. Is well into the 31s. Through the final turn he goes then. Over the final few bumps. And what is the time on the board? A 31.345. A second faster than Joey Hahn. And that is a good reflection of how the tyres work on these cars. The ultimate fastest after a couple of laps, and then it really does drop off quite a bit. Augusto Farfus now ready to try and fight against that Rockefeller time. What he really needs is him and 3 other BMWs to go faster than Rockefeller and knock Rockefeller out of the top 4 shootout.
Fastest on the first sector, 40.14. So he gains a lot on Mike Rockefeller in that first sector, but at the end of this little straight, there's the timing beam for sector number 2. And then we're not, oh, another one, 23.6, that's another 10th. So 2 corners to go, no mistake for Augusto Farfus, and he should be able to just topple Mike Rockefeller off top spot.
And there are fast Audis out there as well, going faster than Mike Rockefeller. I'm sure there'll be some sort of team orders in play to make sure Rockefeller does get into the top 4 and the Audis don't push him out. Augusto Farfus, though, is under no such illusion, goes 0.2 faster, a 31.1. Scheider goes faster than Rockefeller. Now Rockefeller is in danger zone. We've got Whitman out there on a super fast lap. And Adrian Tombe and Mortara. Could it be that Mike Rockefeller does not make it through due to Audis beating him, not BMWs? Marco Whitman goes over the line.
Ooh,
he goes P3. Rockefeller is going out here. At the moment he's in P4. He's in the top 4, but he's on course for going out. Mortara is fast out on track. Will he be told to slow down? Yeah, goes P6. Misses out just a little bit.
Tombe was half a second faster on the first sector on his own time, 0.4, and he loses suddenly a 1/10.5 in the last sector.
Oh, Joey Hahn misses out.
Well, that wasn't deliberate.
Timo Glock is also out there. Don't forget Timo Glock. He is on a fast lap still, and he has those tyres within him. Joey Hahn's going to have to try and do it on a second lap. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Here is Timo Glock, the only hope for BMW to knock Rockefeller out of the top 4 positions. Is it good enough?
No, I don't think so. I think Rockefeller is just safe in 4th position. Timo not getting held up by Augusto Farfus, who moves out of the way nicely. And he needs a super duper last sector to get into the top 4, and I can't really see that happening, but...
No, nope. 8th position.
Yeah.
Eduardo Mortara is on another fast lap, by the way. But I'm very, very surprised if Mortara goes faster than the top 4 positions. Here he is, aboard the Audi at the moment. We do have 2 Audis and 2 BMWs in the top 4 positions. Where is Mortara going to go? Surely 5th is the best that he's allowed to do.
Yeah, but it's so close, you can't really time that. It would be absolutely brilliant if you could time that. And he's got, you see, he's lost the plot in the last sector. I'm sure they told him not to go fast.
Yeah, lost a lot of time in the final sector.
Yeah. Now there's a surprise for you.
Mike Rockefeller is into the top 4 positions.
Although he's lost 1/1000th of a second to his own fastest time, so that's something you cannot really time. I mean, if you can do that, then you're a genius. But it does make sure that this man, Mike Rockefeller, is in the top 4, and he is in the pole position shootout, the 1-lap shootout with 3 BMWs. Then in 5th position is Joey Hahn. Sorry, it's 2 BMWs, 2 Audis, sorry. Joey Hahn in 5th. So there's a BMW right behind Rockefeller, even if he only qualified 4th. So.
Some head shaking on the pit wall, though, from Audi. So they weren't happy with Rockefeller's lap.
No, they didn't think it was good enough to get into the top 4, I'm sure. And it's close again, because positions 5, 6, 7 are in a 10th. That's
yeah.
You know, so it's so close. Timo Glock in 8th. I'm sure he'll be satisfied. He won't be happy with that, but I'm sure he'll be satisfied with that. 8th position is something you can work with. Right behind Mortara, ahead of Tombe, ahead of Molina. So he'll be satisfied with that. He always wanted more, but then He's only 3/10 of his teammates, so that is how competitive this is.
Farfus, Scheider, the fastest two men in Q3. Then a couple of tenths down for Whitman, who was so fast in the first two portions of qualifying. And Mike Rockenfeller just getting in by 900ths of a second over Joey Hand in 5th position. Albuquerque 6th, Mortara 7th, Glock, Tombe in 9th, and Miguel Molina is finally out after being on the bubble. And on the bubble, he ends up in 10th position.
So we get the pole position shootout, in which I still believe, that Timo Scheider could get that pole position.
He was your tip.
Yeah. I mean, he's had pole position here before in his career. His first pole position came here in an Opel, and he was leading the race quite comfortably when the team forgot to put the right front wheel not on properly, and he lost it after his first pit stop. And when he got pole position again in an Audi, he fluffed the start himself and didn't win the race. But he has been really fast here in qualifying, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it on the front row or pole position.
Well, let's go down to the pits. The man who survived 2 sessions, Miguel Molina, is with Yves.
Miguel, it wasn't a bad qualifying year for you. Actually, you came into Q3, finished now P10. I think it was a good support for Mike Rockenfeller to keep in Q4, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was a good qualifying, really tough. This morning we could see that it would be quite tight, everything. And it was like this. I was P16 in Q1, P10 in Q2. But we made it again. We are in top 10. Good possibilities to do a good race tomorrow. Also, we are fighting for the team championship, so this is really positive. And I think it's a good. Also, we show that the Audi is quite strong here. And yes, it's a positive qualifying. I'm not so happy from my Q3, but yeah, you know when it's like this, that tight, it's always difficult.
But at the beginning of the season, you promised me going in the podium and being with a winner, I could shave you. So probably in Zandvoort, we're going to have this target.
Let's see. But but I mean, the positive thing is that we have a good chance tomorrow to fight for the race. As I said, the main goal is to win the team championship and for sure help Rocky to win the championship as soon as possible. And let's see, I'm really confident. I think we are doing a really good end of the season. And let's see tomorrow.
Your team boss Ernst Moser would be happy and delighted. So good luck for tomorrow. Back to you guys.
And that was shave that you heard, not save. It'll be interesting to see that at the end of the year. Mike Rockenfeller will be the man to go out first, by the way, in the top 4 shootout.
Yeah, it's quite interesting what he said is that he was going to help Rockenfeller win the title as soon as possible, which is a couple of cynics this morning told me that, you know, RTR really wanted to have the title decided at the last race. Audi obviously has got different ideas about that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made sure that Rockenfeller is in the top 4 and has a shot at pole position. So Molina helping his teammate Mike Rockenfeller to stay in the top 4.
And I think the main man that really did a brilliant job of that was Adrian Tombe. Was 2 tenths faster than everyone around him in the first sector, 2 tenths faster than everyone around him in the second sector. He was on course for a top 4 for sure, and then lost half a second in the final sector of the lap. He either made a mistake at the penultimate corner, or there was a call on the radio. Either way, he drops down into 7th position.
Yeah, which is perfectly okay with me, by the way. I mean, Mike Rockenfeller needs to win this championship. If you're an Audi person, if you're Ernst Moser, then you want your driver to win this rather today than tomorrow.
Absolutely. And what a great return story it would be after that horrible Le Mans crash a couple of years ago for Rocky to finally seal the DTM championship. And he will be the man to go out first. Then it'll be Whitman. Then it'll be Scheider. And Farfus will challenge those 3 times the last car on track. Joey Hand was so close to getting into the top 4 positions, and he is down in the pits with Yves.
Joey, it's so close and tight in the DTM, but actually you managed into Q3 and finished P5, so actually it's your 2nd best starting position for tomorrow for this season.
Yeah, you just never know how it's going to go in DTM, you know. This morning we were 17th, and you get the car just a little bit right, and the way you like to drive it, and there you go. That's how quick it can happen. So for me, it's just all about the guys, BMW, Team RBM, sticking with me, even when it's a struggle a little bit. These guys, they just keep sticking with me. We've really become close, and they work on the car, and the car was a lot better today in qualifying this afternoon. So that's where we're at, and I'll tell you, it feels so much better to start 5th than 17th or 16th like we've done the last couple races. And you know, we raced really well, and I'm really excited to see what happens tomorrow.
And I think you like this racetrack because it's nearly more American than the other tracks, because it's really fast and close to the barriers.
I say that. I've been saying that for 2 years since I've been coming here. It's very much like an American track, like an old school American track. VIR, Road Atlanta, these places where, yeah, when you make a mistake here, it's a big one. It's not small potatoes. So, you know, you got to be on your A game. And today, the car was good for me. I felt good, and you know, it's just another day in DTM. You never know. But tomorrow's a new day. We get to race. I love to race.
Oh, so you have the chance for tomorrow. Not like potatoes, small potatoes. I like it. Back to you guys.
And I'm sure Calvin Fish, who's the manager of Joey Hand, will go back to work with a smile, because he's at the last Grand Am race where the title will be decided, and I'm sure he would have loved to be here today.
Let's go back down to the pits then. Yves got another of the top 10.
Timo, you made it into Q3, P8 at the end, so actually your best starting position for tomorrow.
Yeah, it was, I have to say, quite a good qualifying with some tweaks where we lost a bit of time. Unfortunately, in Q3, they just pulled me into the weighbridge, and we were really tight on time to get the last 2 laps with the new set. But then I just got only one flying lap, and it felt to me like, or for us, it was every time the second lap, which was the quicker one. So, yeah, a bit unlucky with the timing, but I think we made a big improvement with the car, and you know, it's another track which I didn't know really in a DTM car and had to learn in 1.5 hours, and it went quite well, and I'm happy we made big improvements on the car, and I hope we found a good direction for the last race in Hockenheim as well, and for tomorrow.
And next year it will be all different with all the familiar tracks then. Back to you guys, we have the top 4 shootout.
Mike Rockenfeller through the final turn, ready to start this lap. No reference with any other cars around him, no reference from laps before.
I just love this. One lap, all or nothing.
Well, let's keep an eye out as to where the car sits on the track, the placement, the body language, how he's feeling inside the car, and therefore whether it is a good or a bad lap. So far, relatively neat through the first sector. It's been BMW's strong point, the first sector of the lap. And Mike Rockenfeller then heads now out towards the dunes, out the back part of the circuit, the far sector. All these bumps. Bracing yourself over the brow of the hill. Backs off a little bit, the front nose skidding across the ground, sparking up, but the line looks good, the pace looks good. 40.1 is very strong.
It's his fastest first sector we've seen so far. Also, interestingly, Ben, you see that on his outlap, he was actually very, very fast. So if you listen to Timo Glock saying the second lap is usually the faster lap, these guys go out on their warm-up lap and just hammer it from the word go.
Get some temperature and pressure into the tyres. This is a very good lap from Mike Rockenfeller. Potentially the best lap in qualifying so far from him. The final 2 corners, though, are so important. We've seen so many mistakes through here.
It'll be a low 31 for him.
Well, that corner was good. And now it's just an acceleration zone towards the start and finishing line. Allard says a low 31. Is it going to be late 30s? No, a 31.325. That will put him third if it was if qualifying finished in Q3.
But that for a one-lap shootout, that is a good time. A 31.3. If you think Marco Wittmann did a quicker lap than that, but had more laps to do it.
Yeah.
So the 31.3, I would say, is a very, very good lap. That could well put him on the front row. I'll be surprised if it's the slowest one in Q3, 4.
Marco Wittmann is the next man up. And the brief from the team will be to go faster than Rockenfeller, but not quite as fast as Augusto Farfus might go later on. A difficult one to judge for Marco.
I would say just go for it and sort it out on the first corner if you need to be, you know, if you need to swap places or anything. But I mean, Marco Wittmann, a guy in his first year in DTM, the team in his first year in DTM, they want their first pole position in DTM.
Team M-Tech running this car.
And a year ago, exactly a year ago, there wasn't a team. They started a year ago with you know, the idea and the plans and the go-ahead from BMW to do all this. So they basically started in October last year.
That's a good first sector for Marco Wittmann, 2/10 faster than Rockenfeller.
Well, he's been like that all through the sessions. 39.9 is what he did in all this, but it is very impressive to do it on your first lap. Ooh. 4/10.
Keeps that momentum up through the second sector of the lap. And this is going to be incredible. An incredible lap time for Marco Wittmann.
Maybe Rockenfeller is going to be 4th out of 4.
Oh, looked like he just was a little nervous through the final 2 turns there. Couldn't get on the power as early as he'd have liked. It was certainly very, very neat, but this time is going to be inside the 30s. 30.894, as fast as we've seen so far. Marco Wittmann on provisional pole and setting a huge benchmark for Augusto Farfus to try and beat.
An absolute incredible lap. I mean, he's done a 39.9 in Sector 1, which is basically, he's, I think, the only one who does it regularly. Here we see Hans Moser thinking like, probably the German words that starts with an S. Very disappointed not to be on pole, but is he going to be on the front row with Mike Rockenfeller? But Wittmann, perfect lap, didn't put a foot wrong. And now we see Timo Scheider.
So what do you do as Timo Scheider then?
Just go for it.
If he beats Mike Rockenfeller, it's another place for Rockenfeller to try and sort out?
Yeah, but this you can't really... I mean, I'll be surprised if they would play that game. I mean, Timo wants that pole position. Timo needs to fight for his own contract for next year. Timo's fighting for his own survival in DTM. He's been here for years, started off with Opel, started off with Mercedes actually, then went to Opel and then went to Audi. So he's done the full circle. Maybe they should go to BMW and take it a complete all 4 marks in DTM. But he's lost 2/10 in Sector 1. But I think he's quicker than Mike Rockenfeller, or is exactly as fast as Mike Rockenfeller.
Yeah, exactly. Almost exactly matching Rockenfeller's time through the first sector. Just 5 thousandths slower. And at the moment, will put him in the 3rd position, which surely will become 4th position once Farfus sets his time. And again, just a fraction faster this time than Rockenfeller through Sector 2.
Well, he'll beat Mike Rockenfeller, but he won't beat his own. He won't beat Marco Wittmann, I'm sure.
Oh, he's not going to beat Rockenfeller either with that mistake. Dips a wheel over the curb. And if he was on course to beating Rockenfeller, it's all been thrown away through there. 32.524 for Timo Scheider, and you saw it on your screens. It all went away in the dirt, and just that small mistake, just slightly early on turn-in, I think.
Yeah, that went wrong in the middle of the corner. He lost something there. Something flew off the rear of his car, but I mean, here you see, you know, you get sucked into that curb and you just can't get off it, and then he had to get out of the throttle and complete the lap. But that's what top 4 shootout is. 1 lap, go for it. It's all or nothing. And the good thing is, if it's nothing, you're still 4th.
Absolutely. Augusto Farfus, the last man to go. The man with a bit between his teeth, trying to keep this championship alive, trying to win it as well for BMW. Doing the maximum he possibly can. He's been the most successful driver in qualifying this year in terms of getting into the top 4 positions. And look at his face. You can see that he's trying hard, even on his eyes and his furrowed brow. Now he relaxes down to this very fast right-hand turn. Impossibly late as he backs off and turns in and then breaks the beam. Augusto Farfus is slower than Marco Wittmann.
Yeah, but only a 10th. And Marco Wittmann's been incredibly quick on that first sector. So not all is lost.
23.5 is the time to beat through Sector 2 of Marco Wittmann's. You see it on your screen. He needs to get a 23.4 to make up some of the lost ground through that first sector. He's lost another tenth to Marco Wittmann. And suddenly, he's got to try and find 2 tenths and more through effectively 3 corners. How brave can he be? Through the first of the right-handers. And now the second, it's a beautiful line, just a little bit of dust on the exit where it was kicked up from Timo Scheider. Over the line he goes, and I think Marco Wittmann's going to have this in the bag. Augusto Farfus hasn't done enough. It was a lot. It was very, very close, but Marco Wittmann takes pole position. Farfus second, a BMW 1-2 with Audi in third and fourth. And look at that, Marco Wittmann is ecstatic.
Well, he should be. I mean, it's his first pole position. It's the first pole position for the team. What a place to do it. I mean, Zandvoort's, of course, a very nice traditional track to score all those first poles and first points and whatever you. And he's in the perfect position to help Augusto Farfus, who eventually 0.08 of a second is nothing, is it?
He did well for that final sector to find some lost ground, didn't he? Yeah. Really did. And with the dust that was kicked up, of course, from Timo Scheider's car on that final turn, potentially didn't have the same drive that he would have got on a clean track. And a very, very good effort from Augusto Farfus. And surely into the first turn, everything will be sorted out. There is Mike Rockenfeller, and we can hear from Marco Wittmann with Eve.
Marco, it's your first pole position. It's your debut in this season of the DTM. So you're smiling from one to the other side. How does it feel being on pole position?
It just feels great. I nearly cannot describe it in words. It's just unbelievable to be here on pole. I mean, the last races were pretty good on performance side, and now we are back on the pole position in the first row. Third time in Q4 for me. It's just great. Augusto is second, so great BMW result. I'm really happy. I'm really proud, and now, of course, looking forward to tomorrow.
What's the target for tomorrow? Being on the very top of the podium?
Well, we will see. I mean, of course, if you start first, you want to finish there. Of course, Augusto is second, so we will see. But I think we had a good team result, and hopefully we can end up there tomorrow as well in the race.
And for sure, you're going to support Augusto in his battle for the championship.
Of course, I mean, we are all BMW, so we need to support him especially. But let's first wait until tomorrow. Let's make a good start, and then we will see how the race ends.
And enjoy this moment. You're the man of the qualifying today. Congratulations. Back to you guys.
You can hear the joy in his voice.
Absolutely. And a year out of racing, of course, when he was the BMW test driver, coming from the Formula 3 Euro Series. Spent a whole year developing this car and helping out the BMW team, gets the race seat, and now gets his first pole position. Augusto Farfus, there's his wife and kid. Used to this situation of coming into the top 4 shootouts. Will he be disappointed that he didn't get the pole, or will he be happy that it's a BMW 1-2 and he's ahead of his championship rival? Thumbs up.
Well, he should be happy with second position. Of course, there's a BMW front row, then there's an Audi second row, and an Audi and a BMW on the third row, and an Audi and a BMW on the fourth row. So the teams that are fighting for the championships are in the front.
And the top Audi is Mike Rockenfeller.
Mike, actually finishing P3, not in the front row. Are you really disappointed?
I'm not happy, that's for sure, but that's racing, that's DTM. It's going to be tough tomorrow. Augusto and Marco Wittmann, they showed an unbelievable pace, I have to say. I couldn't match that, so I'm very happy with the position we are in. I hope my car is a bit better in the race than it was today in qualifying. I had to push every station, and I was sometimes really close to be out. So it wasn't my day, and still to be on P3 is fantastic. Thanks to the team, thanks to Audi.
But I have to mention, you're the best Audi driver, and tomorrow you have the chance to win your first DTM title already in the second last race.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't think so that I will win it tomorrow. So I just focus on the race. You know, Augusto is really strong. I try my best. 2 BMWs in front. They have a good, let's say, chance to win the race, and we have to see what we can do with our pace.
But good luck, because Timo Scheider is right next to you. For sure, he's going to support you. Thanks. Back to you guys.
I'm not sure why he sounds so disappointed then, because he's right behind Augusto Farfus, and if he follows Farfus, he's a champion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so I don't really understand where the disappointment comes from. He's still got all to play for.
second row of the grid is not a bad result, but as he said, he had to push through every session. It was never easy for him, whereas for Farfus and Whitman, getting through those first few qualifying sessions did seem a bit of a breeze.
If you look at the split times, by the way, I mean, Whitman, who runs outside after he saw, and then he got pole position. The first sector was the deciding factor, because sector 2 and 3, although it's hundreds of seconds, Augusto Farfus was a little bit quicker. But then that first sector, he nailed it and almost got 2/10 or over a tenth to get the pole.
Whereas Mike Rockenfeller losing a tenth of a second in every sector of the lap.
Yeah, I think that's the maximum for Audi.
Yeah, well, exactly. He's really extracted all he can. But what can Augusto Farfus do to challenge and keep the title alive? Let's find out with Yves.
Gustl, actually, I don't want to disturb you with Dr. Ulrich, but I have to mention, actually, you finished second, and for the 7th time, you made it into Q4. So actually, you're still in the hunt and in the battle for the title. So being in front with Marco Wittmann, it's a good starting base for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I think that was our target, to be in Q4. The car this morning was quite competitive, so we knew there was this possibility. But we knew as well that Mike was strong here, so we really had to push, and I think this lap was a quite good one. I'm very happy for Marco to be on pole, so let's see. I mean, at least today we are in front of him. Tomorrow, let's hope to be again in front of Mike.
How tight will be the first corner? Mike is starting from P3.
Yeah, for sure will be tight, like always in DTM. But let's try to get a clean start. Mike is a very nice and clean driver, so I'm not worried about that. I think we both will give our best, and then tomorrow night we're going to see the result.
And don't repeat it like Bruno and Robert did it in Oschersleben.
What?
Okay, back to you guys.
He never saw that. That happened so far behind him in Oschersleben.
Yeah.
The little Canadian get-together that was. Although, come to think of it, if Farfus wins, and Wittmann finishes second and Rockefeller third, then he's still the champion.
He's still the champion, yeah. So Rockefeller, well, to keep it alive, Rockefeller has to finish 4th or lower.
Exactly.
With Farfus winning the race. Farfus winning the race, though, is looking good, isn't it? With Marco Wittmann and Farfus on the front row. Rockefeller, Scheider, then Hand and Albuquerque. A big job for Joey Hand tomorrow. The best placed BMW, other than those front two, to help out Augusto Farfus for the championship. And of course, don't forget, whereas it doesn't look like we're going to have any weather issues this weekend, which is very rare for Zandvoort, we do have the tyre situation. We do have different compounds of tyre, different strategies, and that is going to be vital in terms of the race tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, and if the wind dies down a little bit and the air temperature goes up, I mean, at the moment it's 19.5 degrees, it jumps up to 21, 22, then the track temperature goes up to 24, 25, or maybe even more, then, well, you never know what's going to happen. Then you just do not know how long the option tyre will last. And I'm sure there will be some head scratching tonight, like, what are we going to start on? And you have to make that decision tonight. So Wittmann and Farfus, they probably start on the option tyre, because usually the front guys start on the option tyre. But maybe Joey Hand or even Timo Scheider, they can already go a different route and then take it from there, you know. And don't discount people, even people outside the top 5. Timo Glock, he was on a good lap. Mortara, I mean, they could all sort of sneak into the top 3.
It's going to be absolutely fascinating. It's almost going to be match racing between BMW and Audi in terms of working out how to slow Rockefeller's pace down as much as possible and try and get a couple of BMWs ahead of Rockefeller come the race end and allow this man, Augusto Farfus, hopefully to drive off into the distance. I can see Marco Wittmann doing a very long first stint tomorrow.
Yes, and you can see someone like Bruno Spengler doing a very short stint, coming from 16th, got nothing to lose, go the opposite way, and if they, as you say, can slow Rockefeller down a bit, suddenly at the end of the race Spengler will come into play.
Yeah, exactly.
And he can make a decision, a difference.
Yeah. One thing is for sure, though, there won't be any Audis between Farfus and Rockefeller come the race end unless something disastrous happens. Plenty of intrigue down in the pit lane.
Well, what I think is great is that tomorrow there's all to play for. And if Rockefeller doesn't win it for tomorrow, we know one thing for sure. We've got a great final in Hockenheim.
Yes, that's for sure. There is 2 races still remaining in this championship. The Zandvoort race tomorrow And then in 3 weeks' time, the final race in Hockenheim. And it is all to play for between BMW and Audi. Lots of head scratching from Mercedes tonight as they work out how to keep Christian Vittoris in third and Robert Wickens in fourth in the championship. Although Bruno Spengler way down the field in 18th spot. He'll start with that penalty. And he is fifth in the championship. So plenty of interest. And as you can see, those